Well, our featured reader has made my job very easy tonight. He wishes only that I tell you that he is called Austin his home since birth, and he is a poet. So without further ado, please welcome Montsho.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. Thank Raw for this guy. It's cute. Right? So, as some of you know, I was my Christmas present was acute myeloid leukemia, and I, on the 26th, was admitted to Brackenridge Hospital, and I got out. I don't know, kind of a blur since I got out, honestly, but last weekend or something like that, and. Since this whole thing started, it's been kind of like a whirlwind of information on the disease itself, mixed with just a jumble of emotion and trying to figure out how to feel about something that, you know, as a 23-year-old man, you kind of take for granted, which is, you know, your physical health to some degree. And I think that having that so thoroughly compromised all at once has given me sort of an interesting perspective on what it means to be alive and what it could mean to die. And I wrote some about that, and I kind of had already been, interestingly enough, on the path to some of the works that I had finished while I was in the hospital in terms of the thematic content of some of the works that I was working on before. Because I have this sort of, not obsession, but strong interest in third eye imagery and dreams and sort of the pineal gland phenomena sort of thing, you know. So I write a little bit about that, and I think that sort of translated very, very fluidly into a style of poetry, or a feel of poetry, maybe better, that I find in some of my favorite Sufi Muslim poets, ecstatic works, really, that sort of examine what it means to be in that moment, where you realize that everything that's going on around you is it's heaven. You're in it right now, you know. Or yeah. So I'm going to read a little bit about some of that stuff. He said, "What can be said of the gray sky, the eyelid of winter months caught in its slow blinking across the dome of domes? What can be said of the sun when against human reckoning it shatters the sky's silken mat in chuckling, diffusive glory. What can be said of the heart, given over to deepest weight, when the chill like tide recedes and, fed by the salt of the eye, burgeoned by fire, the ivy of fullest love again lays claim to every valve, every chamber, and every vein. So this one is sort of like when I first started the chemotherapy that I was on, it's particular to leukemia, like many chemotherapies, is very particular to their cancer, and there's lots of different types that sort of coincide with different cancers. But my particular chemotherapeutic drug is called cytarabine. And cytarabine sort of makes you feel like you've had too much coffee. But at the same time, very slow and very inundated. And so this is sort of like a little study on what that is. My relationship with my girlfriend, Ivy. We ride the sound of a horse's hoof as he and his black head are thrown about in a bag on a hat rack. We are players in the only act available, puddles trading drops of one another, vibrating through the water, splitting the water, and so jocular. We ride a high-frequency squiggle with hopes of becoming. So I decided that I'd like to make it a tradition to go to Louisiana, to New Orleans, every July. So it's happened the past 2 years, and it's been ridiculous. Just with the same people too, so it's been like kind of really awesome. Almost beginning tradition, ideally. Nice. This is something I was thinking of on the way back from New Orleans. Started writing at that point and finished later on. Sulphur, Louisiana, and a night bring nothing else. I am an ice cream man with no customers, sweating the most mutable stillness ever mistaken, the perpetuity of a grand incontinence shared by so many mouths already. On this road to New Orleans, everyone speeds along, swayed by the gamble, and reaching deep into tweed pockets, I hope to retrieve the cowboy I used to be. But you know as I do that I no longer suffer succotash, that I am no longer capable, that my gun erstwhile smokes. Nights like this make me wonder if my skin still scares people like you, my once and shameful patrons. Like my fathers before me, I am an ice cream man, slowly rolling through the swamp and gathering these bright moments to pause until my song, again switched on, can be heard beckoning from around corners on southern streets. This is called The First MC. The first MC made it infinitely clear, swathed in victory and flags on flags on flags. Who knows of these black words or their dancing? They stood as ubiquitous comedy, soundly above their foundation, or rather therein, were calls responded to, echoing and implosive as detox. From beat to beat, thinning deceit, or something to that effect, directed outward upon its roots. Such roots, though the bark held so male a surface thing, even in its clamor, made one thirst for the inner well, like seeing femme from within the eye of the storm of the whole of the tree itself, thirsty. The fruit, even I wondered at its brightness. The way it spoke so confidently to all that it was not, in a voice so familiar as to rap with eerily emic license on doors that I have never seen, though I know that they are there, gaping inside all of us. After eating this message, life was born. Ashe. This is a poem about dreaming and sleep and stuff and being in love with it. Morpheus is a goddess. Since meeting her, I've been pondering, how exactly does one give as a gift the occurrence of the color turquoise, such that it shines like the sun, like an egg mid-hatch, blinking with yolky primordial grace slowly into brood, such that it disinherits the persistent, freeze-dried consciousness and its exaltation of this culture's present bedlam, such that it banishes all associated disingenuous affectation. As a matter of course, purely for its own sake, form moves forward from her. Since meeting her, I've lived my whole life. She is the bee on the tree of my mind, where else cutting through the air like my breath through tints of wine and buzzing. Softly wielding whispers against me, she weeps a heated golden lucre so bright that the darkness melts from my face, and I, who've never perceived as a flower, am of a sudden given license to bloom. Like this, proboscis reaches deep to speak one word: sleep. She works hard for it, for her bread, for the time we spend dancing while she can on the hastily sloping floorboards of a squeaky happiness so perennial that leaves drop red and yellow from increasingly haggard smiles browning at her feet. And so I find I'll do whatever for an opportunity to clean. She cut my tongue out, keeps me from talking, so instead I flail shouts, hoping to pin tails on all the asses that care to listen to my heavy breath, and hoping all the asking prices in the world be bid on upwards of the worth of the words I've lost, so that I might find them again in the right hands, that I might hear them played out from lips more proficient in the pronunciation of their value. She is every single animal. She is still herself. She is my blood coursing. She is still herself. She keeps me from spending days untying knots of my own confusion about how there's only ever been one knot in the very center of my brain, and that there lies the catalyst for interdimensional post-space travel and the doing of things. That if you're not using it, you're losing it. If you're not working it, you're shirking it. It is a small kaleidoscope, dropping its innards here and there like hints of the once and forever cosmically intertwined. Akhenaten and Nefertiti, Sita and the Lord Rama, Moses and Zipporah, Artemis and Orion, Oshun and Shangu, Iset and Osiris, Urim and Thummim. Let this be known, that from the moment the eyes close to the melatonin sunrise, ours is the allegory, ours is the love. Ashe. You'll read maybe two more? Three more? Three more?
Your show.
What do you think, man?
It's up to you. It's up to you. Whatever you feel.
I say three more.
Three more? Three more it is. This is a suggestion. And other things. Dante's Petri dish. 7. The sunshine in this life is the bride of suchness, bounding up through the root and through 3 dilated eyes, and through the lines I birth an ascent to unplugging climax, slips down the sides, of the river of the deep valley of me. Thus words one night began to smuggle this heart, beating this mouth to a mule and its tongue to a burdenous and pedantic stroll along the belly of a riverbed that winds around to find itself where it first started, ending. 13. In the center of this moat is a crater filled with a field in which a chain gang hollers over their own stone-shattering and inadvertent bone ladder construction. From here even, you might glimpse the smoke that billows from their eyes, now so empty blind to their incessant climbing. Cloud 9 is so close, they say, as they climb and climb further underground. It is here, they say. It is oh so cold to their dismay, yet so resolute they don more clothing. 108. From time to time, slaves of tried illusion will beg others to join them. Come to the end with us, they will say there is right and wrong. They will be waiting for you with shears in hand, and you could find yourself so shorn. And sheep, whether ram or ewe, are grown to follow. Rebuff these words, and listen instead to the gold as it gurgles outward, molten somehow, at 98.6 degrees. Ashe. I'm going to try to go off book for this one. I haven't done it in a long time. My monster is a black mobster, mobbing deep in a sea of meaty treason and clipping threads of reason that previously held sewn shut the bullet and lash wounds of a titanic culture brought over an expanse of hell, affectionately named the pond. The pond was a buffer, the pond proved rougher. And now we bathe in its oily pores as a sign of a foray into violent forthrightness and echo-ego exploratory oratory essence abortion. But I say to you now we cannot all divulge what we hold because sometimes we're holding close closed. And I keep looking under my bed and in my closet when I know it's all in my smoke rings so loud like green is the loudest color. I think it's the loudest color. Green is the loudest color. You'll find me singing about patience and how it becomes patient per se, say when thinking backwards towards the ball of yarn that is will be, and like that I wait to be unraveled. Yet motion stands hairy and thick in my path, roaring back and forth and out at the high tide inside, while I stand and stare up at the moon, wound around how to return to emptier seas, where neither dreams nor memories require sorting, and all life is lived in the breathing of novelty. Do you remember life in 1995, when fire was carried around by Promethean flies abundant in showing off their light mind? Mind you, I will never catch one in a jar again, for I have no desire to deliver liverlessness. I am witch doctor of this village, and the surgeon of the one spirit dreaming the dream of it. Have you ever heard of miseducation? Don't answer that. Miseducation is heard of you. And everything my education was missing, I've redreamt. My redemption is this: I think, therefore I am. Think again: I am, therefore I feel. You must re-realize lies in your coding and be reborn, coasting, roasting, and never boasting. Re-realize lies in your coding and be reborn, coasting, roasting, and never boasting. For the ecstasy of the whole leaves holes in. This head drains hot blood from life lived in vain, and the red is decanted down to the ancestors from 6 feet above a root system that is, if anything, earned the right to call itself restless on account of cosmo-analytically, metamethodical, psychonautical rationing of time spent inside sanity, the fourth dimension in dimethyltryptamines, trypin me, trypin we, and the infinite being, measured out on a scale. Get up, get out, derail. Get up, get out, derail. Like universe rehearsal, I repeat these verses. I recite and rewrite, and from the darkness, from the blackness, comes the bright. Blazing stars in my sky focus in on my breath. In with the peace and out with the stress. Respect less relenting,